So one of the stories that's in my upcoming book that I haven't finished yet is a story about me traveling to go see my now late grandfather in New Orleans. And on my way from Atlanta to New Orleans is the city of Tuskegee, which is where he grew up in the 1930s and 1940s. And so Tuskegee today is a much different place than it was in the 1930s and 1940s. But I'd never been. I'd heard stories from my grandfather and my father about this house that he grew up in, and my dad remembered the smell of the bushes out front. That was his big memory of visiting his grandmother, and who has long since passed away. I decided I want to stop and find this house. I didn't know what number it was. I didn't know what it looked like. I just knew that it was on Elm Street. And so I get off the interstate at Tuskegee, and as you probably know, I don't look like most of the folks in Tuskegee.
Gotcha.
And so I feel this kind of, the eyes are on me. I'm like, oh, well, this is a new concept. You know, I don't typically feel this way, but it's that experience that I haven't really had before. Driving through town, and I pull down Elm Street, and I see a house that just kind of resonates with me. Something about this particular house. So I pull over on the side of the road, park my car, and I get out, and I walk up to the door. And this black lady answers her door.
Yeah.
And she says, "Can I help you?" I said, "This sounds crazy, but I think my grandfather grew up in this house." And she looked at me and she goes, "Is your grandfather Dr. I said, "Dr. Winters." And she said, "Come on in." Nice. So I went into her house. She introduced me to her 90-something-year-old, I think 89, 90-year-old mother named Dorothy. I sat in that house for 2.5 hours and had tea with them. And we just became friends. And I said, "Do you have pecan trees in the backyard?" And she said, "Yeah, how'd you know that?" I said, "Well, did you know that Dr. George Washington Carver had dinner in this house once a week with my great-grandfather?"
Wow.
She said, "I had no idea." I said, "I have a picture of my great-grandfather sticking, or Dr. Carver with my great-grandfather sticking a metal rod in the ground. And a pecan tree had blown over. My great-grandfather called Dr. Carver over to say, 'Hey, it was a pretty light wind and I lost a pecan tree. You know, what gives?'
Yeah.
And he stuck a metal rod in the ground and said, 'Dr. Winters, you have a bedrock that's pretty shallow here, and the root system couldn't grow in, so it grew out.'" And I said, "One more question before I leave. Did you know that the Commodores, the band, bought this house for my great-grandmother?" And she said, "I was married to one of the Commodores." She said, "We have a son together."
That's
so,
nice.
Little short story. Don't mean to hijack your episode.
No.
It's stories like that if you step out of that, which is part of the whole narrative of The Art of Everything, it's something ordinary, knocking on the door, the art of knocking on a door. But the biblical reference is, seek and you shall find, ask and it will be given, and knock and the door will be open. And it takes someone being willing to say, "I'm going to knock on this door, and I don't know what I'm going to receive on the other end. I could be condemned, I could be just berated, or I could be welcomed in and loved on," which the latter happened to me. But I feel like each time we're together, it's both of us knocking on each other's door and saying, "Will you let me in?"
Yeah. When someone lets you in, it's giving you the opportunity to share their perspective. By you walking through that door after knocking on and being welcomed in, you were able to taste the tea that they drink.
Wow.
The tea may have tasted like the tea you drink,
Yep.
or it may have tasted completely different, but you were able to sit on the couch that they sit on. You were able to look at the photos on that wall.
Yep.
And you were a part of what you experienced when you were there. And the sharing of perspective is powerful.